All right, now you can better see just how terrible this thing looks. Whoa! Snap, blah, blah. Is that a word? I don't know. It's crap pouring out everywhere. Crap. It's everywhere. Welcome back to the shop. I'm Jason, and today we are finishing up our brake upgrade / restoration series on Project Black Pearl. This is episode 4, and what we're going to be doing today is wrapping it all up. In our first episode, we replaced our old lines with new stainless lines from Bimmer World. Then in video 2, episode 2, we rebuilt the calipers. And in episode 3, we powder coated the calipers and the brackets. Everything is looking fantastic now, and I am very happy with how it turned out. But we got to get some brake fluid in it. So let's get right under the hood. You see, our brake fluid reservoir hides underneath our microfilter housing here on the driver's side. So we pop our top cover off. Then we're going to need to get our channel duct here off as well. I just used a little flat blade screwdriver to unhinge it or unclip it. Pop off your hood sensor, and in my case this guy looks like the bottom clip is already broken off, so I can just tilt this out. Normally there'd be a little clip here to lock it into place. And it looks like my whole firewall support has turned to dust. So I have a spare one for my M5. I'm not sure if it'll fit the same on the 540. If it does fit the same, I've got a future upgrade in mind that I think you'll really like. Oh man, there's a lot of these chunks in there. Yep, that fluid is disgusting. Glad I bought that gallon. It looks like our filter is in pretty bad shape too. Yep. Yucky, yucky. Check that out. I don't know what happened to it, but that's not how it's supposed to look. Fluid in the reservoir is disgusting as well. I suppose this would be a great opportunity for me to test my brake fluid tester. Basically all it does is it reads moisture content in the fluid. Let me find that thing. Here we go. Brake liquid tester. Push the button. Says battery is good. And look at that. Glowing red. It says greater than 3% moisture content in that fluid. Definitely not what we want. To get the fluid out, I'm going to use an extractor. I've got this guy that I've had around for a very long time. Drop a link down below. You can pick one up of your own. Works really nice to pull oil, transmission fluid, brake fluid, whatever it is you need to get out. And if you wanted to clean it, you could put fresh fluid in there and pump it into whatever you're trying to get fluid into. Man, this reservoir looks like heck inside. Lots of green and discoloration. All sorts of gross. There are chambers inside of these reservoirs, so you're not going to be able to clean and get everything out unless you took it off, filled it up, and cleaned it that way. I did that on the M5 when I did the brake system on that car many, many moons ago. If you stay up on your brake maintenance, you won't have to do this. I mean, you'll have to do brake flushes, but your reservoir won't turn green and gross inside. That's not just the color of the brake fluid. I can physically see it's green. All right. I decided I can't live with this thing looking this terrible. I'm going to pull it off. There are 2 plastic clips at the bottom, one on either side, and then the lines are just in rubber grommets. So you have to get the inside one off first from the top. Okay, once that's off, you're going to fight them back and forth. Pull the reservoir towards you, and then pull this side off. And then just work this bad boy. There it is. Gonna lose brake fluid everywhere. I should have remembered this. I think I had a drip pan ready. Now the clutch line should slide off. Oh, I forgot about that. On the bottom, there is a line crimped onto it that goes to the ABS pump right here. So we're gonna have to uncrimp that line and pull that out and around. If I was really smart, I would have been replacing the clutch line too. When I rebuild the trans, that's when we'll do it. Or at least reseal it. Won't be a true rebuild. Blah, blah, blah. Wear safety glasses. All right, I washed all the brake fluid off my face. Just got this line cut. Now, should just wrap around like that. All right, now you can better see just how terrible this thing looks. Whoa, snap, blah, blah. Is that a word? I don't know. It's crap pouring out everywhere. Crap, it's everywhere. Okay, look at the junk that came out of this reservoir. I just tipped it upside down to get the fluid out of the clutch chamber. And man, I mean, you could start a farm with all the debris in here. It's disgusting. I'm gonna put some silicone plugs on the 3 open holes, and we're gonna put some isopropyl alcohol in it and shake it up. I've got all these high temp silicone plugs for powder coating. Hopefully they come clean after this, I don't know. Suppose I'll find out. Oh yeah, hey, that's definitely working. Boy, I don't know how clean this is gonna come. I'm gonna be shaking for a while. I wonder if this can survive in the ultrasonic cleaner. I know that would get it clean. I know it's in a green salsa container, so you think it should be green, but nope, that's what it's coming out like. I'm gonna take a risk and throw this in the ultrasonic cleaner. Ultrasonic can be bad for some plastics. I mean, the least I could do is just put it in there with the heat cycle on. Maybe I'll try that first. Well, it's certainly looking a lot cleaner inside. Wow. Okay, yeah.
Does that hold coolant? What does that hold?
That is doing a fantastic job. This holds the brake fluid.
Oh, okay.
Well, this has very quickly exploded into a while you're in there project.
While you're in there. While you're in there.
While you're in there. I was just supposed to be doing a brake flush after rebuilding the calipers and doing the lines and powder coating a bunch of while I was in theirs. And this master cylinder just, the reservoir, I couldn't just leave it in there. They're about $130 new, but I thought, let me see if I can salvage this guy. Other than the filter inside, I was able to. Look at this thing. Look at how clean that came out. There is brake fluid in it right now. When you look down in here, there's one central chamber for the front brakes that feed the front directly, I believe. And then it splits off into a rear, into the ABS pump, and into the clutch line. They're all little chambers in there that you'll never get clean without harsh chemicals, ultrasonic, or cutting this thing in half. The reason I have brake fluid in here is I rinsed it out with hot water in my sink over in the corner. Then I rinsed it out with alcohol after it dried. Then I dried that, and now I've got brake fluid, and I'm just running the brake fluid all around inside, and then I'll drain all this out, fill it up fresh on the car. All that to be said, while I was looking in there, I started pulling more trim out, I started cleaning things, and when I did my initial inspection on this car, I noticed that the brake booster line was collapsed in multiple locations, and since I'm going to be pulling the motor apart, pulling the intake off, and resealing everything when I do timing guides, I ordered a new line and a one-way check valve when I ordered all my parts originally, and I wasn't going to do these items until I did that job, but I'm right here. The issue is the one-way check valve connects to the vacuum line that runs to the front to the intake. And this plastic line likes to break, and I really don't want to try to take this guy off and break it now and then have to continue forward when I'm not ready to do that job. So what I'm going to try to do is just replace the booster side of the line. To get this line off, I'm just going to pry it out of the booster down here at the check valve. There's going to be vacuum like this one had. Then I'm going to see if we can get this trim piece off to get the line out and get the grommet. We have to pull these little plastic tabs. I really hope they don't break. We got 2 on this side and 2 on the other side, 3 on the other side. So I'm just going to work them as slow as I can. There we go. This little alignment tab gets in the way. But I didn't break any of the little plastic tabs off. So, winning! Alright, this end on our one-way check valve, I'm going to unscrew the hose clamp that's on there. From the factory, these would have been crimp clamps. Clearly somebody has been in here before. That's pretty expected on a car of this age. With this whack of maintenance, kind of surprised there's even a clamp on here. Just going to slice the line so that hopefully it will open up easier. Be careful while you're back here. This is the vacuum line that goes to the fuel pressure regulator. It goes down right here through the fender and to the regulator, comes around the front and to your intake boot. But we got our line off. You can see right there where it's a little pinched. Right here, a little pinched. This side that goes onto the one-way check valve, I threw a little bit of grease in there because I'm going to be taking this apart later to replace the check valve. On this side, make sure that you orient your clamp, I guess on both sides, in such a way that once it goes on, you can still access it. Let's see, I'm going to go into my booster first. Figure this guy out. Boy, that looks a lot better not being all crimped. Before I crimp on our ABS pump line, I need to orient the direction. And to do that, I'm basically just going to hold it under here, take a look at it, and it looks like about right there is going to be where I want it. I put silicone plugs in the master, and then on the ABS line I put a little silicone booty. That way I could clean under here without fear of anything getting into the master. Boy, these things got tight. And the master couldn't bleed itself dry somehow. I'd have to have a leak for that. But regardless, there's still fluid in there, so I don't think my master lost its prime. To get our reservoir back on, it's going to be exactly the same as taking it off. We're just going to yoink, push it down to get it past the grommets, so we'll work it back and forth. We got to run this line, whoa, brake fluid in here still. We got to run this line down around. Let's see, it's got to go around the front line there, then wrap, then down. It's going to fight us a little bit. Okay, now I can see my grommets are lined up. So I'm going to work it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I heard both of my clips clip in. And then I'll use a mirror down underneath to verify that it looks like my grommets are fully seated. And I can see that they are seated on both sides. And then I'm going to put some fluid in here. And before I put this line on, I want to get some fluid coming out of that line. That way it's not totally filled with air. And I'm probably going to spill some because my smart ass picked a gallon. I should have opened one of my small containers first. All right, we got fluid coming out. Pouring out. Should be good. This doesn't need a clamp. There's no pressure here. It's just a friction seal. For my actual bleeding duties, I'm going to be pressure bleeding from the top with this Motive brake bleeder and my BMW adapter. A pressure test right here, watch for leaks. Master reservoir, I don't believe is ever under any actual pressure. All right, find somewhere for this guy to hang out, like that. Now, I get invariably somebody's going to say, well, you have to use an electronic bleeder to open up the pump and the valve and the yada. I know. We definitely got air all over the place in the system. But having just rebuilt the calipers and done the lines and all that, I'm going to do a quick bleed all the way around. Then I'll hit the trans, quick bleed all around, hit the trans. Then we'll go through and we'll activate the ABS. There's going to be a crap ton of air in the system. So what we'll do is we know that we put more fluid in than this bottle can hold. So we're not going to run low up top. We're just going to slowly work through this. We're going to do the right rear furthest from the brakes, left rear, right front, left front, trans. Always work furthest away to closest. And we're already starting to get some very lovely fluid out of here. Well, that's pretty gross. Moving on. All right, now for the clutch. This one's the real pain in the butt. Not because it's hard to get to. On the M5, it's a pain in the butt because you got the big splash panel here that's in the way. But more because, for whatever reason, they always like to get air in them somehow. And I wind up having to bleed them manually. Even with a pressure bleeder up there, still run into trouble. This one is also a different size. It's a 7mm. So I like to throw that guy up there. And I just hook up to the line and then breaker free. And for whatever reason, when people do brake flushes, they tend to miss this. And these are always full of just disgusting fluid. But I didn't see a bunch of air come out of it. All right, I'll call it right there. We're going to call that one flush. Then we're going to go around and do it again. There's going to be more air, trust me. And we're back to the clutch, round 2. You can see our fluid is much cleaner this time. It also came out with far less air everywhere. Now that we've basically primed the system, I'm going to hook up my scanner and we'll see what we can actuate as far as the ABS DSC to move some fluid around and make sure that we're getting all the air out. That's definitely more the color we were going for. Now we've reached the stage where we can activate our pump and our DSC unit and try to move whatever air is in the system in, out, and around, and out of the calipers and out of the master. So we're going to be using my Foxwell. This is the NT530, I believe. I've got an older one as well, the NT510, in order to run a special function. So I've already connected to the car, and you can see that we have 3 options on the scanner here. We've got diagnosis, service, and special functions. We're going to go into special functions. This scanner is pretty slow on these older cars. On my F15, it's not that bad. We're going to go into brake bleed. You can see we have brake bleed, steering angle sensor, and suspension. For us, brake bleed is what we need. DSC unit, brake ventilation. Then we're going to get 3 options. We're going to get start bleeding, activate pressure pump, and end. So I'm going to go ahead and start bleeding. I've already run this cycle once. And what it does is it activates the DSC pump. And you can hear it running right now. It runs through all the different valves, opens them all up, and makes sure that it's pushing through, well, basically the air, right? And then I'm going to be activating the pre-charge pump. That was that little line at the bottom of our reservoir that we had to take off. Then we're going to go back through and we're going to pressure bleed again. And I might activate these one more time. It depends what the pedal feels like after that. Before I bleed the system down underneath, I'm going to fire it up, make sure that my booster is getting good vacuum, and I'm going to pump the brakes a number of times, pump the clutch pedal probably 1,000 times, then bleed again. Well, under initial inspection, I started the car up, pumped the pedal. It actually felt really good. Clutch even felt really good. So we're going to run through one more brake flush right now, and then we'll see exactly how it feels. We'll get this guy, got plenty of fluid in there still. Just like all the other times, we're going to start on the right rear. Well, the fluid's coming out much sooner this time. There's bubbles because the line was full of air just from not having anything in it. So we should see fluid and then nothing as far as bubbles are concerned. Just like that. No bubbles now. So what you could do as well is you could give the caliper some taps on the inside, on the piston side with a rubber mallet. Protect your finish if you've got freshly coated calipers like mine. And see if that helps to move anything around. Pumping the brakes, operating it, all of that's going to really help. And running the DSC unit. We just got a couple of bubbles out right there. Okay, I've wrapped around to the front. This fluid is looking pretty darn good. Pretty much like it's looking coming out of the bottle. We'll do the clutch one more time. All right, let's finish this sucker up. I got the microfilter housing all put back together, pulled off my bleeder, got the wheels on, hit them with the impact gun, only a little bit, brought them up to torque with the torque wrench, and got her down on the ground. Now I need to get out, drive this thing, double check that there are actually all the bubbles out of the system. I believe there are. Let's talk about what happened here. Well, I did a brake overhaul, which required a brake flush. Brake flush kind of spiraled into, ew, that's gross, let's take this apart further. And here we are. It's all back together, no harm, no foul. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna head out to a junkyard and I'm gonna try to get a filter out of a car there and clean it up because I can't seem to find it. Here is what we had in the reservoir. So the fluid was crispy green, milky, murky. Look at how lovely that is. That's not even counting the fluid I pulled out in the extractor first. This is just what came out afterwards. Then we got down to the calipers. And if you watch my brake caliper rebuild video, you'll see that once I pulled the pistons out, there was quite a bit of goo in the front calipers. Those are cast iron calipers. So there was a bit of corrosion and rust and just general grossness. The rear calipers are aluminum on this car, which were super clean inside. Here is the fluid we pulled out on the first two flushes from the calipers. Well, that would have been calipers and the lines. Nice murky brown. There was a bit of cloudiness that came out in the bottle, but not too terrible. I have seen worse come out of the calipers. Then, two more flushes later, this is what we wind up with. A nice stout, light brown color, kind of like maple syrup. This is about what it should look like because it's just slightly lighter coming out of the bottle. This is done. I'm happy with it. It's time to mark it off our list and talk about how much this all costs. Our brake system is officially done, almost. I have down here Kevin's heat shield. That's something that you will see in a later episode. I have a heat shield on my ABS DSC unit on the M5, and I need to make sure that it's going to fit on the 540. Likewise, the rear engine bay cowling that's all destroyed, Kevin makes one of those as well for the M5, but not sure if it'll fit on the 540, so I got to figure that out. This was not an expensive repair. Now, obviously I had all the tools and everything, but basically this portion of the repair was the fluid and one of the lines. I'll replace the rest of the lines later to the boosters, or the booster. So the fluid was about 55 bucks shipped with taxes and $27 for the hose, total of $82. That brings my total spent on the car to just under $5,000 at $4,931.27. This car is going to get expensive really fast when I get into all the parts under my workbench here that I've been stockpiling up to start pulling the motor apart. I've got my valve covers back here. These are spares that I bought off of a car junkyard, powder coated them. Take a look at that video, it's down in the description. And we're gonna really tear into this thing and get all the maintenance, everything caught up on the motor. Really appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, comment. If you made it this far, you're my people. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.